So we're here at McMenamins.
We're at McMenamins Old St Francis School here in Bend.
Cheers.
On a nice afternoon here. This is one of the stops on the keg leg for the Bend Beer Chase. So after you guys complete your relay, there's one of these wonderful stops here with their great beer and a nice patio to hang out on. So yeah, we're talking about dynamic warm-ups here, and yeah, you want to give yourself about 5 to 10 minutes before you run to get yourself nice and loosened up for things. So yeah, the idea with it is that it's a very different kind of stretching, and it's just about kind of, you're still trying to loosen up your muscles, but not holding your stretches.
Okay, let's go back a moment. So theoretically, you or I could roll up to the trailhead or to the road route that we're going to run, and normal thing, we're talking get out of the car, put on your waist belt if you have a little fuel or a little hydration, and then just start running.
Right.
I would say, what percentage of people do you think
I would say
do
probably
that?
75-80% of people do that.
70. I mean, anytime you go down to the trailhead or
Yeah.
you're out on the road and you see someone starting to run, that's typically what I see.
Yeah,
And
they're excited to get started, and it's maybe they'll walk for a couple minutes or jog easy.
Yeah.
But they're not really taking those tissues through their full range of motion, and that's really what we're looking to do with something like this.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about that. What's the advantage of actually doing a dedicated warm-up over just getting out and going?
Yeah, you're trying to take all of the joints and muscles that you're going to be using. You're trying to warm up that circulatory system so it's ready to go. Your blood's pumping prior to asking your blood to pump, basically, so you don't have to start cold. And it allows you to kind of get to that steady state, that happy flow state we all want to get to when we're running, a little bit sooner.
Right.
And it can also, it's been shown to decrease the likelihood you get injured during your running.
Two very critical key points right there. One, performance. People are going to perform better. They're going to hit their peak earlier, sooner, because they're physiologically adapted to it. And the second is that injury prevention piece, which obviously as physical therapists, that's near and dear to us.
Yeah. We love seeing you guys in our clinic, but we prefer to see you, out on the road instead.
That's right. That's right.
Yep.
Talk about injury prevention, physiological adaptation.
Mm-hmm.
What kinds of things help with those? What kinds of things are not shown to help, maybe are harmful?
Yeah, they say so potentially the static stretching where you're holding for a long time. Like people kind of think, I want to lengthen up my hamstrings. I want to stretch my hip flexors. You're not really trying to lengthen anything with these kinds of stretches. You're just trying to kind of get things ready to go and prime the pump, essentially. Some of the things that can be, harmful is trying to go too aggressive when you're cold. It's like you take a rubber band out of the freezer and try and stretch it. It's not going to go as well as if you warm it up a little bit and get it warm and then try and stretch it.
Here's a question though. Okay, so we work with a lot of patients that are getting back into running, and sometimes you'll be midway through a run and they'll feel something start to tighten. They'll feel a calf start to tighten, a hamstring, a glute. And so at least in our world, it's pretty common that we'll see somebody recreational cruising along in their run and they have to stop and stretch it out a little bit. How does this dynamic warm-up fit in with that? Do we have any recommendations specifically for that, or that could be another talk in and of itself, how to work on pacing, and it could be running form. Just wondering what your thoughts are on that specific piece. Somebody's actually out now on their run and something starts to tighten up a little bit.
Yeah, I think one of the first things you try and do is you may need to slow down a little bit. You may have started out of the gate a little bit too fast. That's an easy thing to happen. Adjusting your running form based on the conditions you're in. Are you uphill? Are you downhill? Are you on trail versus road? Some of those things can certainly tie into that. And I think some of this same dynamic stretching can help you get some of those kinks out a little bit without necessarily overstretching the tendons and the muscles in the middle of the run.
So specifically, when we talk about specific muscles, specific movements for runners, what are we talking about here?
Yeah, we're talking mostly about the lower half of the body. Things like the hip flexors, the gluteal muscles. A lot of people, they'll come in to see us and they're talking about this pain down deep in their bum, the piriformis or the gluteals, and that's something that is going to be addressed in the dynamic warm-up.
Calves
got to get
a huge one.
Calves got to get worked on. Quads get worked on. Your trunk control, trying to get some of those trunk muscles woken up a little bit. Get a little bit of the arm swing going with it. And also the other piece too is getting that nervous system primed. You're about to put a big demand on your nervous system to go out there repeatedly, thousands and thousands and thousands of steps, and be able to run and have those nerves perform as you want to every time. So it's also, that's definitely a part of it as well too. It's your first relay. I know when it was my first one, I didn't realize the first part of the run was downhill for the first mile. I was jazzed up. I was late to get to the relay. I did everything wrong you could do on your first leg of your first relay. My runner came in faster than anybody anticipated. I wasn't there for the handoff. Big rookie mistake. And I took off, jazzed full of adrenaline, and I was running about 1.5 minutes per mile faster than I wanted to for a 7-mile run. And I started to really struggle about 3 or 4 miles into that.
That's a pretty huge difference right there.
Yeah, it was
That's
a big difference
big.
for at the time was a long run for me. So yeah, it's definitely one of those things where if you're going to try and do this, you got that one leg to do it in. It's going to be before that first leg to kind of calm your body, get yourself in the moment, and prep it for what it's about to do. So second and third legs are important for trying to get yourself recovered back, ready to go after you've been sitting in the van for a while. But that first leg is really about kind of getting yourself centered and getting everything primed.
So let's talk about specific movements.
Yeah.
I like to break it down into which muscles and movements are part of that anti-gravity system, hold your body upright when you hit the ground with multiples of 3 times your body weight and greater.
Yeah.
And then other muscle groups that are going to be more about your acceleration or your forward movement and your speed.
Yeah.
So I like to have a little potpourri of those combined, and then look at the common hot spots. Calves and hamstrings, power generators, they develop acceleration. Glutes, hips, that helps keep us from collapsing and getting crushed into the ground like an empty can.
Yep.
So having a little bit of a variety for there, and then I always love to include the ribs and the lungs and the shoulders for good running posture, good form, good air exchange. So let's trade off some ideas. I know you've got some that you really like, and I have some that I like.
Yeah, and some common themes throughout all of these is making sure that during the lengthening phase of some of these muscles is that you're exhaling during that lengthening phase. It's just like the idea is that you don't want to be holding your breath at the moment of impact. You also want to be making sure that you're exhaling into these stretches. You want to keep your trunk up nice and tall. That's going to help your lungs expand a little bit more. And it takes about maybe 20 to 30 seconds for each one to do a lap down and back, or if you're short on space, you can kind of just go through, maybe 5-10 feet if you need to, just take some more laps with it. So one of the ones I really like to start with is the single knee to chest, where you're walking across the ground, pulling one knee up as you raise up onto your toes on the other side. That's really important for getting the hamstrings and the glute insertion or origin fired up, as well as getting that calf fired up and getting ready for that push-off phase that you talked about.
I'm a fan of that one as well. Some folks call that a double or triple extension based on that foundational leg, using the quad and the calf and the hip extensor on that side, and then a nice forward knee position on the other leg. So big fan of that one as well.
Yeah, another one I like for getting the hamstrings more like dynamically warmed up like we talked about is the straight leg hamstring kick, or some people call it can, where you kick your leg out in front of you, trying to touch the shin or wherever you can touch depending on your hamstring flexibility, out to the knee or maybe even the toes, once again keeping that nice upright position while you're doing it. Some of the other ones we like to do is some lateral lunges. We often think of running as in this one plane of motion going forward, but it's important to get some of those lateral hip muscles, those stabilizers you were talking about, fired up and ready to go. And that comes with lunging down onto the leg as you head sideways and letting that back leg stretch out. So you get kind of 2 for 1 with that one, is you get the lateral hip muscles on the lunging leg activated, and then you get those adductor muscles on the inside of your thigh to kind of stretch out and get used to what they're about to do.
Great. I love to do a little hip rotator stretch, just like the knee to chest.
Yes.
Only add a little rotation by taking hold of the shin of that leg and turning that hip, just to work those rotators and get them lengthened and ready to fire.
Those are those deep muscles. A lot of our patients are trying to work out with their foam rollers and the lacrosse balls and stuff like that. But if you can get that muscle loosened up down deep with a little bit of that rotation, it's a nice one to get going with.
How about another favorite for you?
Another one I really like is it gets the trunk going. It gets the TFL, this muscle up in the front kind of corner of the hip, and the hip flexors going. It's a forward lunge, alternating legs each time with a little bit of trunk rotation. You got your arms up over your head, and you're lunging towards the side of the leg that's lunging. So if you lunge on your left foot, you rotate your trunk up overhead, and it gets a nice lengthening of the obliques and the hip flexors, and you work your way down and back with that one.
I think one of the principles here is load to explode. If you want to fire a muscle is cross bridges, fibers that are actually gliding on other fibers, and if they are not already able to be maximally lengthened or elongated, it's really hard to generate force with them.
Yes.
They don't have as far to travel, and force in the body is length of travel in as quick a time as possible. So those two things combined create power and speed for runners.
Absolutely.
So a lot of these movements, you'll get this idea that they're not difficult to do, are they? I mean, they're pretty easy.
Nope,
they shouldn't take a whole lot of effort.
Yeah, and it should be something practiced during your training runs. Obviously, don't
sure.
dive into this on the day of the relay. You might feel kind of like a duck out there, not knowing what you're doing. But how about you? How about some other favorites that you have?
I do like mountain climbers, where you're in a plank type of a position and you're alternately bringing one leg up underneath your body, so you're getting a really deep hip extensor stretch to get the glutes ready to work. Another way that I've taught patients to do that is I call them bumper lunges. If they're out at a trailhead, just at their car or truck, they can put one foot up and then lean into that foot a little bit and then switch legs.
Yeah.
And that's really effective for getting a deep hip opening stretch.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a favorite for sure.
Good.
And I like trunk twisting, alternate arm swinging, just to encourage that kind of movement. How about you? Any more favorites for you?
Another one I really like is skipping, and it's something that I use with a lot of my runners. I use it as a drill before they're even ready to run, as a pre-running drill, because it really incorporates that slingshot dynamic that we're looking for. Because when you got one leg that's pushing off, the other leg has to be driving forward, and that's exactly what a skip is. It's something that a lot of us do when we're kids, and we stop doing when we get older. And we get narrow focused into our running, and it starts to produce some of that power out of the hip driving leg, your hip flexor, and it also starts getting some of that triple extension and push off out of the other leg at the same time. It gets you used to the loading, the landing that you're about to be doing. So I'm a big fan of skipping. Yeah, a couple more we like. We'll probably have in some of the videos as well too, is some leg swings where you got your hands on the wall or a tree or the side of the van, swinging your leg forward and backward, kind of like a pendulum. And also swinging side to side, getting your hip loosened up a little bit more. We feel that's really an important part of both driving and stability, depending on whether it's the stance leg or the swing leg. So we see people being able to incorporate both those, because that's what running is switching from stability to power, over and over again. So the leg swings I really like. And one final one, kind of an advanced drill, but it'll be in the video as well too, is a B drill. It's what's commonly seen a lot in, if you've ever run some cross country, you've seen people working on their B drills. And that's about getting that hamstring to be able to transition from being this driving leg to start being this pulling leg. And it's an important drill to start working on. It takes a little bit of practice to get used to it, but it's definitely worth the time, because hamstring strains can definitely be a relay breaker.
So let's talk a little bit about timing of this, how long people spend on each one of these, and how much effort, because it's variable. People will sometimes do these too vigorously and actually create problems if they're too aggressive.
Right.
So what's your take? What do you tell people?
It shouldn't be strenuous. It should be something where you feel a little bit of a tug. It kind of depends on how loose you are ahead of time. So if you're coming out of the van stiff, obviously you're going to back off on your intensity of this and let your body respond to what you're asking it to do. So it kind of depends on where you are in your flexibility and where your body's at in its recovery to begin with. It takes about 20 to 30 seconds for each one to do. So, all told, if it takes you more than 4 or 5 minutes to do this dynamic warm-up, you're wasting your time a little bit. You can be a little bit more efficient with it. So it shouldn't feel like one of those big aggressive stretches. Okay, you're not in yoga class right now. And I think that's a big difference of what a stretch feels like. It can be very different in yoga, or when your physical therapist is stretching you, or when you're just trying to warm things up.
And there are two stopping points when we look at flexibility of a muscle or a joint. Really, that first stopping point is not anatomic limitation, it's actually neuromuscular limitation. Right. And a lot of people that aren't used to moving through their range of motion don't know what that feels like. So I recommend that you really figure out how comfortable you can make the movement, and then even back off another 10%, just for total safety. Do them faster in that easier range, Because the alternative, if you hit that neuromuscular wall, and we see this from time to time, your body doesn't really know how to do much between that neuromuscular block and your true anatomic restriction.
Right.
And that's where people are, I believe, most vulnerable. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, and I think that you can find that by watching and listening and feeling for your form. I see people when they try to do the single kneaded chest one and they lean at their trunk. That's a sign that your body's losing form, because your trunk should be stable and your extremity should be mobile.
Yeah.
So if you see yourself compensating and bending and leaning at your trunk, you're obviously overdoing it.
That's right. That's right. Move well first, then move more.
Yep.
Right.
You got it.
Don't break your body's understanding or break some of these fundamental principles just to try to get a more vigorous movement.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
So I think we covered a lot of ground. We talked about the dynamic warm-up. We picked some favorites. I know we've got clips of a bunch of those. We talked a little bit about strides and then how to actually put these together and how much time to spend on them. And if folks have questions, you can contact us through our contact information here.
Yep.
And we hope this is helpful for you, and we look forward to seeing you out there at the event.
Yep.
And out on the trails and the roads.
Yep. Stay healthy and have fun. This should be a good relay summer.
From
Cheers.
McMenamins here, Old St Francis. Cheers.
See you soon.
See you soon.
Good service here.
Great service here.
McMenamins,
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Taking good care of us.
Yes. Absolutely.